such a rise would be the largest in the council's history. It would add about 145 quid a year to a Band D bill. So if you pay your council tax around here, I mean, this is going to be quite a big chunk. So what do you think about it? And I think it would actually mean it's one of the highest council taxes, or certainly one of the biggest rises in the country as well, which is pretty eye-watering. So it triggered this reaction from Reform UK's leader, Nigel Farage.
Well, Worcestershire's a total basket case. You know that. I know that. We are not in majority control in Worcestershire, so I take that out of the equation.
So there we are. We in Worcestershire are, according to Nigel Farage, a basket case. What do you think about that? Let me know. And also, if you pay your council tax, I'd love to know what you think. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government said no household in Worcestershire would see their bills pushed above the national average. But it's still a big increase, isn't it? 9% is a big increase. Let's speak to Bradley Thomas, the Conservative MP for Bromsgrove. Bradley, good morning. Good to speak to you.
Morning, Elliot. Morning.
What do you think of this?
Well, I think this is thoroughly reprehensible. I find it bizarre that Nigel Farage is condemning his own reform-controlled council, calling it a basket case. But the reality is that last May, ahead of the local elections in Worcestershire, Reform put leaflets through people's doors saying that they were going to cut taxes. And instead, we've seen them go cap in hand to the government seeking permission, which has now been granted for a way beyond inflationary council tax increase. 9% is what the government have said they can increase it by. And the flip side, too, is that ahead of the last general election, the Labour Party said they were going to freeze or cut council tax too. So actually, both of them are completely in cahoots to rise council tax. And this will be the highest increase that Worcestershire has ever seen. And it will be, I believe, the highest level increase anywhere in the country if 9% goes ahead. And I've been pretty clear that this should not happen. My constituents deserve better. They deserve politicians to stand by the promises that they made at an election. Integrity matters, and it's quite right that people are concerned and calling this out. So later on today in the House of Commons, if I'm called to speak, I will be challenging the Minister on this, as I have done several times over the last few months, and imploring the Minister to ensure that there is a referendum of local people to really gauge what their views are, and I'm pretty sure they won't be in support of this. Well,
Bradley, you mentioned there, Labour's fact that they weren't, when they were in opposition, they were saying that there should be more money for local councils. You're absolutely right. They did say that. Also, Reform did indeed say that they wouldn't be putting council tax up. But as the Conservatives, and then Conservative controlled the council for a long time, didn't it? That you didn't keep up with the amount of increase that was needed. I mean, that's well documented that council tax has been probably lower than it should be in Worcestershire. That's hence why we are where we are now. So it's partially the Conservatives' fault.
No, I don't think that's a fair accusation. Conservatives have got a very strong reputation for fiscal discipline. Myself, I used to be a council leader in Wychavon District Council in the south of the county, and we had very strong fiscal discipline. When I was there, froze council tax for 5 years consecutively. What we saw before the last local elections were Reform quite clearly promising to cut taxes, and they were also making a big deal about this Doge effort, this
efficiencies,
government efficiency. And the reality is they thought that they could come into local government, give the sofa a big shake and find 100 million quid that falls out of it. The reality is that local government across the board is generally quite lean anyway because of demand-led pressures. These huge savings weren't there to be found in the first place. But what we have seen in the last year since Reform came into administration in Worcestershire is an overspend of around £100 million. And we're also seeing things be cut now, budgets like the highways budget has been cut. So, potholes are increasing across Worcestershire, and I'm afraid they're going to get worse because Reform are cutting the level of investment that's going into essential services. They've got to own this.
If we ended up with a Conservative government in the future, would they invest more money in local councils? Because the sad fact of this is you can sort of tinker around the edges, can't you, as much as you want. But councils are responsible for enormous things that have to be paid for, statutory things like children's care and adult social care, which are enormously expensive budgets. They just need more money from central government, don't they? Would the Conservatives provide that?
Well, look, the reality is that majority of spend that comes from county and unitary councils is predominantly demand-led. You're quite right. It's things like looking after people who are the most vulnerable, adults, children. There are other statutory obligations that councils have to deliver. And it's obviously quite right that councils do receive a realistic chunk of funding from central government. They obviously top this up with council tax. But councils that are particularly successful are also ones that, where they can, they do invest in things that deliver a return for the taxpayer too, in a slightly more commercial endeavour than councils have been operating to date. But one of the things that the Conservative Party is doing, and we've been spending the last year and a half since we entered opposition, is going through our future policy slate with a fine-tooth comb. One of the big challenges that society has got to address is, long-term settlements for social care. But I'm absolutely confident that it's the Conservative Party that has had that track record for fiscal discipline, for working through things in a costed fashion that delivers great value for money for local people and taxpayers across the country. And any future policy that we put forwards on this will be one that is in the best interests of constituents, both delivering value for them as a taxpayer, but also ensuring that statutory and non-statutory services are funded to the levels that people deserve.
All right, Bradley Thomas, we'll let you go because it's Prime Minister's questions in about 50 minutes. Do you think you're going to get a question today?
Sadly, I'm not on the order paper.
Are you going to be bobbing up and down, are you?
I have to wait and see. Maybe I will. And if I get called, you'll have to tune in and then invite me back on the programme to talk about whatever topic I raise, probably be council tax. OK, anytime you want. Good to speak to you, Bradley Thomas. Thank you.
Conservative MP for Bromsgrove, yes. If you're so inclined, watch PMQs. You might be able to see Bradley bobbing up. That's the thing they do, when they stand up and down. Very rarely actually get to ask a question that way, but you have to do it, don't you? You have to try. So what do you think about that? I mean, what he says is true. One of the big things that Reform said was the fact that they were going to cut lots of budgets. They were going to be coming in, finding all these efficiencies, cutting your council tax. That was basically what they said. OK, there's probably a bit more nuance to it than that, but that was it in a nutshell. And here we are looking at a 9% council tax rise in Worcestershire, which is enormous, on top of everything else that everyone's paying at the moment, which is shooting up.